Kijus, if you can call everybody inside. Good morning. So we will be starting our program today now. Welcome to this opening plenary. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming early. The program start has been a little late. I do apologize for that. I think a lot of people are still coming in. So first of all, I would like to, on behalf of SANOG, I would like to welcome you all to SANOG-38 and NPNOG-6 event in Kathmandu. We have with us Mr. Purushottam Khanal, Chairman of Nepal Telecom Authority, as chief guest of the event. Thank you, sir, for your continued support to SANOG and NPNOG, and welcome, sir. I would also like to welcome founder of SANOG, Mr. Gaurav Raj Upadhyay, and Dr. Phyllis Smith. Mr. Kishore Pant, Chairman of NPIX, Mr. Samit Jana, President of NPNOG, Board of Directors and Board of Director of NPIX, distinguished guests, sponsors, speakers, instructors, welcome to SANOG-38 and NPNOG-6 in this beautiful city of Kathmandu. My name is Rupesh Shrestha. I'm the current chair of SANOG and CEO of NPIX. South Asian Network Operators Group is pleased to come back to Kathmandu after 4 years. This is the 7th in-person SANOG event in Nepal. The last in-person SANOG was in January 2020 in Karachi, Pakistan. And due to COVID-19 pandemic, we had to pause in-person meeting. However, we successfully conducted online SANOG meetings during the pandemic in January 2021 and July 2022. We are glad to welcome the delegates from many countries in this event, including from India, Bangladesh, Singapore, Australia, Germany, and Pakistan. Welcome to SANOG-38 and NPNOG-6. SANOG started in 2003 and has been regularly organizing these events twice every year in different countries of South Asia for last 18 years. SANOG, being a regional platform, has educated, trained, and networked many engineers, vendors, and network operators. Many engineers who had attended SANOG workshop in the past are now in technical leadership positions in various organizations. In terms of workshop training, about 3,000 engineers have directly benefited from the world-class trainings and exposures through SANOG. Through SANOG conferences, we have also provided community knowledge sharing, learnings, awareness on internet operational governance and internet operation governance. SANOG is now further pushing on assisting community and local NOGs on best practices on internet from experts and helping to make internet secure and strong. In last 4 days of this event, we had workshop on 3 different tracks: routing infrastructure and operational security, led by Dr. Philip Smith; network management, monitoring and security workshop, led by Dave Valan of Ipv6, and network automation 101 by Anurag Bhatia. And they were assisted by our local instructors as well. That concluded yesterday. And today, being the final day of the event, I welcome you all to this conference. We'd also like to welcome and thank our supporters and sponsors without whom this event would not have been possible. Special thanks to Nepal Telecom Authority, without whom this event would not have been possible. Special thanks to Nepal Telecom Authority again. Also thanks to NPNOG community for helping in organizing this event. Before I end, I would like to express my deepest condolences to those who have lost their near ones due to COVID-19 pandemic. I personally remember Mr. Naveen Limbu, who was once a fellow of SANOG and continued association with SANOG and NPNOG to support in various ways. We also lost Mr. Vijay Jalan, Director of WorldLink Communications and a friend of SANOG. We are very sad to have lost them and many more. However, we should also be glad that our networking community and professionals have worked hard, risking their lives during the pandemic and lockdown to provide continued internet connectivity during the pandemic and lockdown periods as well. The field technicians fixing the fiber and the system and network technicians who had ensured the internet to the public and continued during lockdown and pandemic period deserve a big round of appreciation and a round of applause, please. Thank you all for being a frontliners to ensure the continued internet during the pandemic period. I wish you all to have a great learning. Thank you and welcome to SANOG-38 and NPNOG 6. Thank you. Now, since I'm also MC of the session, I would like to welcome Mr. Samit Jana, President of NPNOG, on a dais to welcome and say a few words on behalf of NPNOG. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupesh. Good morning, everyone, and namaste. So first of all, I would like to thank SANOG committee for hosting this event once again in Kathmandu, along with NPNOG, and the first physical one after the pandemic. It's my pleasure to welcome you all today in SANOG-38 and NPNOG 6, joint conference hosted by Nepal Internet Exchange. I welcome all participants, including speakers, guests, trainers, and sponsors present in this event, along with the ones who are joining online. Thank you for being us here today, supporting us with your active participations. Last time when we had opportunity to host Apricots and SANOG together in 2018, Nepal had roughly around 800 Gbps of internet traffic at that time. Now it is exceeding 8 terabits per second, almost 10x growth. Much of those growth is attributed to ISPs, aggressive fiber to the home rollout all over the Nepal. Similarly, number of operator has also grown from around 40-45 to 150. As a result, today we provide average 300 Mbps speed of internet at less than $10 per month, which is considered one of the cheapest in the world. In an average, the home users consumes 10x more data compared to the mobile data at fraction of the mobile data price today. Hats off to all the ISPs in Nepal for doing this in spite of challenges during pandemic and this Russia-Ukraine war. This internet growth in Nepal has also increased complexity and challenges in the internet infrastructure that we manage. Therefore, the event like this provides us the rare opportunities to share our operation knowledge and experience with each other. With workshop in 3 tracks with over 100+ participants and around 200+ delegates in the conference, we already had a very good start this year. I congratulate all workshop participants for successfully completing on the hand workshop in last 4 a few days. I'm confident that the new knowledge gained from the workshop, you guys will be able to contribute to your organization to efficiently build and operate robust and secure internet infrastructure in the country. I'm proud to announce that the conference being conducted along with the cooperation and support from Nepal Telecom Authority, ISPAN, APNIC, all telecoms, ISPs, NREN, NPNOC volunteers, our content providers, all our sponsored and supported mentioned in the screen. Today is the most important conference day of the event, and we have excellent papers and talks lined up by industry experts. My best wishes to all the speakers. Similarly, I request for everyone's active participation. Please be us throughout the day and honor us by making this SANOG-38 and NPNOC-6 successful. My warm welcome to you all once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samit. Now I would like to request Chairman of Nepal Telecom Authority and Chief Guest of the evening, of the day, Mr. Purushottam Khanal, to come up on the dais and say a few words, please, sir.
Thank you, Professor. Good morning. Mr. Rupesh Shrestha, SANOG Chair and CEO of Internet Access Nepal. Mr. Samit Jana, NPNOC Chair, distinguished guests and speakers from abroad, distinguished guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to be invited here in this August gathering, and it is my great pleasure to be with you all in this SANOG-38 and NPNOC-6 conference. I appreciate the efforts of the Nepal Network Operators Group and Internet Access Nepal and SANOG team for their continuous efforts and contribution in developing technical skills and capacity building of ICT professionals. Working in different ICT sectors such as telecom, ISPs, system integration, data centers, etc. I believe the technical workshop conducted on various tracks in last 4 days, covering pertinent issues such as routing, infrastructure, and operational security, network management, monitoring and security, and network automation must have been very useful for the participants for the workshop. SANOG, along with the NPNOC, has been the most exciting and important platform for the network operators to learn from the experts who have vast experience working in this field. If we look into the data for telecom sector, we find that penetration of telephone service, including mobile phone, has already exceeded 144%, and mobile penetration alone is more than 141%. The overall broadband penetration has reached 130%, where the contribution of mobile broadband is very large, that is 98% compared to that of the fixed wireless broadband, which is 0.36%, and fixed wired broadband, which is 31.28%. The government of Nepal has approved the digital framework of Nepal and adopted a vision of digital-based socio-economic prosperity. This framework has emphasized on achieving national goal of prosperity through maximum utilization of the technology. The framework has identified 8 priority sectors. They are digital foundation, agriculture, health, education, energy, tourism, finance, and urban infrastructure, and 80 initiatives. This digital framework also supports in achieving the sustainable development goals. Here, NTA, Nepal Telecom Authority, has very crucial role for building digital foundation. Among the 17 digital foundation initiatives out of 17, NTA has to play key role in 12 initiatives. such as to establish the internet as an essential service, to improve spectrum availability, spectrum management and optimization, to take the lead in 5G networks deployment, to build national optical fiber network, to establish high-speed internet connectivity for efficient delivery of public services, to establish public Wi-Fi hotspots, to build national cyber security center, to establish provincial data center, to build digital innovation and co-creation hub, to support digital skill development initiative, to support government e-learning platform, and to build ICT infrastructure for education. Toward the implementation of Digital Nepal framework, Nepal Telecommunication Authority has already launched several programs to contribute in the Digital Nepal Foundation, and they are in the implementation stage and progressed. NT has awarded contracts to different telecom operators for the establishment and operation of information superhighway using optical fiber network in mid-hill running from east to west, having 100 gigs capacity. Similarly, NTA has awarded contracts to various ISPs for building broadband access network to provide services to rural municipalities, its ward offices, all the health posts and hospitals, and government high schools. NT has supported and funded the program of establishment of the IT labs in 100 high schools of the country. NT also awarded contracts for establishment and operation the broadband infrastructure and broadband service is in highly affected earthquake districts. NT has launched a program for establishment of the pre-Wi-Fi zone into the different parts of the country. Nepal Telecommunication Authority has given equal importance to quality of service and the affordability for the broadband services as well. The quality of service and quality of experience requires concerted efforts of the operators toward achieving the benchmark. Also, the spectrum made available to the operators may not be sufficient for the obtaining high mobile data rates. Therefore, NTA is working towards releasing more 4G spectrums to the operators. We are going to test 5G in major cities of the Nepal very soon. NTA is exploring different ways of reducing the cost of broadband internet services, which could be through subsidization of infrastructure sharing, or by reducing taxes, or by other means. The government is having plans to launch its own national satellite for satellite bandwidth and provide services in very remote areas with difficult terrains. We have witnessed competition for broadband services in urban and metropolitan areas like Kathmandu, Viratnagar, Pokhara, and the increasing use of broadband subscriber. Different types of online services and applications like mobile banking, online shopping, online payments are increasing in number, and at the same time, this has also resulted in the increase of cyber threats and hacking. Therefore, we see that the digital foundation and initiative for digital foundation necessitates concentrate efforts of the all stakeholders of this sector and skilled human resource to work for the ICT development and to tackle different technological challenges. In this context also, the SANOG and NPNOG is providing a very important platform for the enhancement of the ICT skills and develop expertise of the personnel involved in this sector for last several years. Therefore, I once again appreciate the effort of SANOG and NPNOG, and let me thank for you organizing this conference, and would also like to take this opportunity to extend my warm welcome to all the delegates, and especially foreign delegates who have traveled a long journey, come to here and share their experience and knowledge with us. I hope this conference will be judged by all of you to be very successful, and I wish the conference all success. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, sir, for updating us with a lot of things that the NTA is currently undertaking and its contribution towards the network and the digitization digital framework of Nepal. There's a lot going on, as we all heard, but that's just the small synopsis provided by the chairman, sir. I'm sure there are a lot of work to be done and a lot of work to be executed by NTA in coming days. And we'd also like to assure that wherever possible, wherever our help is required, wherever we need to contribute, we're all with you, sir, and we're all with NTA. Moving forward, we have a local keynotes presentation by Dr. Manohar Vatrai, realizing Nepal's digital aspirations, hopes, approaches, and challenges. If I can request Dr. Manohar Vatrai to come up on stage and for the keynote presentation, sir.
So, good morning, all. And let me start out by welcoming all the international delegates, of course, national delegates as well. And I know this is a very important event. And I would like to thank the organizers for making this happen after a gap of, I don't know, 4 years or something. And I'm really pleased to be here. Just a little bit about myself so that we can put the presentation that I'm going to make in some context. My name is Manohar Vatrai, and I have been involved in Nepali IT scene for I don't know how many years now. Of course, it predates internet. So I started out my career as a computer programmer, systems analyst, but then moved on to policy and strategy space. So I ended up helping the government draft Nepal's first IT policy. That was in the year 2000. And also subsequent policy initiatives undertaken by the government, including broadband policy. And my last engagement was in the framing of Digital Nepal framework that our chairman from NTA was mentioning to you about. So I was involved there in articulating the framework and coming up with the action plan and also coming up with the Nepal's digital agenda. So today I would like to talk about Nepal's digital aspirations as to what are the hopes that we have been on digital, anything digital. I mean, in digital strategies and digital policies and things like that. And what are the approaches that we have adopted in terms of getting there? And what are the challenges that we face in trying to get there, in trying to realize Nepal's digital aspirations? So in his opening remarks, chairman from Nepal Telecom Authority mentioned about Digital Nepal framework. It's an aspirational framework, but it's a roadmap of sorts. So I'll try to base my presentation around that, but also try to take stock of the hopes that we have been in digital technology, approaches and challenges. So let me start out by when I started my career. Of course, it was pre-internet when I entered into the IT scene, not in the real sense, because if you trace back the history of internet with ARPANET and all that, dates back to 60s or even before that. But the internet that we know it, internet that is ubiquitous, internet that we know today. So I started before internet was a center a key resource, if you will. So so back then we are focused more on process automation. So I'm talking about 80s, early 80s. So our job was to make sure that processes are automated, were automated. And And we had a lot of technical limitations with computers, with IT and whatnot. A lot of technical limitations that constrain the way we could make use of internet or computing resources. No? So in terms of storage capacity, in terms of processing capacities and all that, you know the story. And even then, there was a lot of hype about what we call transformation, about how the societies will evolve thanks to the use of computers, IT, and whatnot. And so we never had shortage of this narrative that was built around this hype of internet being panacea or computers being panacea for every ills that we face as a society or as a country. So, but then again, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, there's a lot of technical limitations as to what we could do with the resources that were available. And that was that. Now, now, again, I'm basing this in my with my experience. Internet enters the scene, and things start to become a little more interesting. And so I think somehow looks like the idea of a transformation has some cogency into it. So looks like the transformation is something that could be realized thanks to the merging of computer science that we knew it and internet. And fast forward a little bit, and we are here now, whereby technical limitations are significantly minimized or effectively gone, I would say. I mean, we don't worry about storage capacity, we don't about processing speeds, and we don't worry so much about network speeds and things like that. No, so we somehow ended up lowering the technology barriers, and that was also an interesting phenomenon that was unleashed. So all of a sudden, technological constraint was no longer the major issue, no longer the what they call elephant in the room. You know? So everything it became so resourceful, and IT as we know it grew exponentially. So touching every aspect of our life, every aspect of how we govern our country and society, and how we deliver services. Now moving on to that level of that intensity of innovation, if you like, you know. So all of a sudden we began to saw new ways of creating value. This is also not a new story, but all of a sudden we started witnessing the new novel ways of creating value. Value proposition that we knew it was to be fundamentally changed. So couple of technological trends, but I think what do I mean by that? New ways of creating value. The simple act of hailing a taxi was appended by the introduction of a couple of predictables into the mix. So hailing of taxi was simple when when we used to do it the old school way. And, it was a simple way of going from point A to point B. Now, all of a sudden, something was added to the mix that ended up appending the traditional taxi models. Who would have thought that adding few predictables in the mix, like who the driver would be, how long the journey would be, and how much of the fare would end up appending an established entrenched model. And that was thanks to many things, but of course, special technologies and mobile and whatnot. So all of a sudden, the point that I'm trying to make is that technology was no longer a limitation. Now, limitation was as to our ability to think, our ability to innovate, our ability to work around the confluence of those technologies. So here I mentioned about SMAC IT. This is what has gripped my attention, this social media, mobile analytics, cloud, Internet of Things. So this this is fundamentally changing the things that we know it. Of course, the whole field is not as mature as we would like to see it. But then again, this is what is defining transformation going forward. So this acronym SMAC IT. And also all of a sudden we used to work with, when I was working in computers, the information was for us in rows and columns. So space as an element, attribute of information was not factored in. So all of a sudden we began to see the introduction of special attributes in the way you consume and deliver and innovate around information. So that was something groundbreaking. So that was something special. So again, so all of a sudden we are in a situation whereby technology is no longer limitation. Innovative capacity, creative thinking capacity is at the center somehow. Now, again, it doesn't stop there somehow. Again, there are some game-changing potentials and opportunities that's being unleashed as we speak. For example, blockchain, again, dating back to the days when I was introduced to computers and programming and whatnot. Blockchain, this technology, I think, compared to that is again game-changing. Of course, again, this is not matured as yet. We have to see compelling use cases as we go forward. But then again, the element of trust that was so missing in anything digital, in our digital transaction, was somehow there was no mechanism of addressing it in a way that was foolproof, that was secure and all that. Now, blockchain, I think when it entered the scene, I mean, it holds, according to me, a lot of potential to making digital space more transactional. So in terms of exchange of value. So it's not only exchange of information that we talk about when we are doing that in the initial days of internet. Now you can talk about in terms of exchange of value. You must have heard about NFTs. And soon, I think, if government allows it, and we can be innovative with the technology, for example, blockchain and all. So we will be exchanging value big time. For example, for sale and purchase of land or even real estate, you don't need to go to the government office. No, it can be tokenized, maybe. Who knows? And any physical assets can be exchanged virtually. Of course, there are challenges there, but then again, all of a sudden, we saw that exchange of value was possible through blockchain. And as I told you, I mean, we have yet to see the compelling business cases for blockchain and all. So I would urge the community, all the research and innovation community to put more effort into it as to what could be the compelling business cases for delivering government services and other areas of economy. The other technology trend that I have been witnessing, again, from my vantage point, is the role that AI could play, artificial intelligence could play. So this is another area with a lot of promise. So initially, truthfully, maybe I'm old school, but I didn't believe in intelligence being artificial, because if you look at our history as a human evolutionary history, you know, we have thousands of hundreds of thousands of years of history. So I think there must be something in the way the nature plays a role that we are this intelligent that we are today. Of course, I also keep on saying that this is an era of artificial intelligence, but natural stupidity. if you collective natural stupidity, if you look at as to how we manage environment, and we end up getting into wars and things like that. So we can all kinds of problems looks like we're not that intelligent and being, but then again, so sometimes I joke that maybe this is an era of artificial intelligence, but natural stupidity. But the jokes apart. So this is another area that holds a lot of promise going forward. So I think I'm particularly interested by, again, looking at things from my vantage point, because here, for example, We mentioned, I'll come to that. We mentioned about the digital Nepal framework that we have come up with. And it has certain aspirations, certain goals that it wants to achieve. And, and these goals related to transforming education or healthcare or agriculture. So there are some aspirational goals. So again, take education, for example. So education, in effective delivery of quality education, we have to deal with some structural problems when it comes to delivering quality education. For example, there could be at the one end of the spectrum, there could be lack of schools and proper classroom and all that. At the other end of the spectrum, since knowledge is so much at a premium now, education is so much at a premium now, maybe we don't have sufficient supply of quality teachers, no? And we have not been able to provide quality pedagogy to the students. No, so we are not achieving the learning outcomes that we would like to achieve that are aligned with the fundamental shaping the 21st century. You know, but then again, what happens if AI enters the scene and expertise, knowledge, everything is somehow mapped out into some electronic substrate, and all of a sudden we have a gadget that is equally as good as a good teacher. We have knowledge resources that is as compelling, or we have modes of instruction delivery that's tailored to the specific needs of the students. So I think that will change education as we know it, and that will also change health as we know it. I think I heard last week, I think, I heard that in some countries in Europe, they will, for example, be prohibiting the analysis of radiology report, health diagnostic report, especially in radiology, X-rays and CT scans, whatnot, by a human being within 5 to 6 years' time. So if human being tries to analyze the results and come up with a diagnostic conclusion, I heard that they are trying to make it, they are considering making it sort of illegal. So they have that kind of sophistication is being built into the system. So I think, of course, that's not a reality as yet, but then again, we can see as to how this field is evolving. Again, robotics, I think that will also be game changing. Here in Nepal, and maybe some of my colleagues from South Asian countries, maybe you also come across this common refrain, common narrative whereby whereby the narrative that's pushed around is that we don't have that level of readiness to be talking about AI, robotics, and all those exotic things, no? So we don't have that level of readiness. So let's focus on what we can do right now. But I don't think that we will have that kind of luxury for a country like ours, no? Because if you want to compete in a global scale, if you want to compete, if you want to open up your economy and expose it to all kinds of competitive pressures, then there is no way you can say that we are not ready. If you are not ready, you are doomed. So I think that's not an excuse. So of course, you don't have to be at the cutting edge of this research and development in AI, blockchain, and whatnot. But then again, you have to start to be innovative around as to how you can use these technologies to help you achieve your goals in development, in poverty reduction, and whatnot. So I think conversations should start now and start big. So again, otherwise we'll be left behind, and will not be able to compete in global stage. So, and also there's again another technology space that's really caught my attention these days: immersive technologies, metaverse. Of course, right now also again, if you look around for a very compelling business cases of metaverse, immersive technology, or like, they're not there as yet. So they're more into gaming, entertainment, and things like that. But I was just going through some literature on how it could be used in training or upskilling health manpower, and how it could be used in training health delivery professionals and all that, in education, in other areas, virtual reality, immersive technology. Another area that would, I think, would have a big role to play going forward. Internet as we know it, if I can make out from the literature that I have done correctly, then no, it's not going to sustain, and we will see new kind of internet. So I think this is another area that holds a lot of promise going forward. And the thing is, what can you do in and of itself using blockchain or using AI, robotics, and all this in and of itself? It will not bring the change that you want. So I think it was 7 or 8 years ago, there was a paper by one of the, again, more than that, 15 years ago. I didn't actually buy it, but the paper was titled, IT Doesn't Matter. It was titled, IT, Information Technology Doesn't Matter. Suppose you are running an outfit, company, factory. I'm running an outfit, a business. If we both end up using same devices, the competitive landscape is level. You use ERP, I use ERP. You use certain solution, I use go and buy that solution. Competitive landscape that we know it is level. So I'm in no way better thanks to IT than you. So what you can do, the key question is what you can do within the confluence of these technologies. How can you make it redefine what they call your value proposition? How can you make it re-engineer your value chain, value proposition? So I think how can you be innovative with this technology? That's what will be required. So technologies in and of themselves will not bring change. That we have also seen here big time in Nepal. So what can you do? To what extent can you be innovative with technology? That will define what it will do going forward. Now, I have an interesting term there. So sometimes I find it difficult to explain as to how would IT or information technology, or for that matter, digital technology, would help a country. Take, for example, Nepal. How would it help the country? It has some endemic problems. So for example, there's problem with poverty, and there's problem with service delivery, and we have so much of structural problems, and sometimes it's very difficult to articulate as to how information technology can be brought into the picture so that we can overcome that problem. Now, one of the analogies that I want to draw is with a laptop. Simple analogy. Laptop, when you turn on your laptop in the morning, when the laptop boots up, it loads what they call some default settings. There's some default, any electronic device, there are some default settings. In network devices also, there are some default settings that determines as to how the device or the laptop in question functions. Now, I draw parallel with the way my country boots up in the evening, in the morning. So what happens? What determines how much Nepal is able to achieve when it boots up every morning? It also has some default settings. So what do I mean by that? I mean by that we have some institutional arrangement in place, good or bad, I don't know, but they're default settings. We have some policy regulatory environment in place, I don't know, good or bad, that would tolerate, for example, corruption, that will tolerate, that will not put transparency to premium. So that's, to me, is a default setting. So we want to provide better education to our kids all over Nepal. But if you look at the quality of teachers, quality of our textbooks, and the way instruction delivered, that to me is a default setting. So you must have, I think, time and again in our normal conversation, we go through this proverbial, what would I do if I were the prime minister kind of thing, no? But even I were the prime minister of the day, my activity, the extent to which I would be successful or failure would be determined by default setting that's present in in our social economy or political economy. So my argument is that if we can innovatively deploy digital technology, IT technology, we can reset those default settings in a way that ends up serving our purpose. So I think that is the key. How can we reconfigure the default setting that plays a more deterministic role in the way country or society functions so that we can leverage it innovatively? So I think, to me, that's the question that we need to be asking ourselves. So that's what we are trying to do through Digital Nepal framework. So I'll come to that. Now, again, talking about hopes, I think what is driving us towards digital strategy? Sometimes there is this critical take on what we are trying to do in the digital front, because as Chairman from NTA rightly mentioned, so Nepal government is engaging big time on rollout of broadband infrastructure, and they don't come cheap. They don't come cheap. I mean, you need to commit sizable funding to do that. And you want to, there's currently an e-government initiative that's underway. So the e-government applications, government reform application, digital IT applications, they also don't come cheap. So it's always a case of navigating competing set of priorities for a country like Nepal. But what is driving us towards a digital vision? So there are four major shifts that needs to be taken into account, and that's applicable across all jurisdictions and countries. For what are these major shifts that's nudging us towards the transformation? One is citizen expectations. It is growing as we speak, citizen expectation. That was also reflected in our local election. So they are not happy with the powers that be, and they ended up choosing some candidates that would defy the prevailing mold. So citizen expectation is on the rise everywhere, not only in Nepal. So the question is, how can you meet those rising citizen expectations? The other is speed of change. So things are changing so fast. You know, things are changing so fast. So 10 years ago, if there was any discussions around global warming and all that, my immediate inclination was to argue against the lack of compelling set of evidence, because if we look at the history of the world as we know it, so there have always been climatic changes and all that. So in all areas, not only there, but on all areas, the speed of change is very fast, significant. So I think there's another shift that needs to be taken into account. And third is, of course, technology-driven potential. I mentioned to you about my enthusiasm in all these upcoming technologies and my effort at trying to align these technologies to the problems that we face in the ground in the shape of Digital Nepal framework. So we all of a sudden are exposed to technology-driven potential that we didn't have before. So I think that's another area that's nudging us towards digital transformation. And the elephant in the room, I say, social media and public opinion. So in my day, when I was probably most of your age, our opinion was shaped predominantly by established actors, established media, established thought leaders and all that. Now, in the day and age of social media, that's not the case. So that's disruptive in a way. That's disruptive in a big way. So I think we need to take that into account. These four major shifts are form as a bedrock for what we call transformation, not change, it's transformation. So I think this needs to be taken into account going forward. Now, I don't have much to share, but then again, let me let me just share as to how we approach digital strategy. So first and foremost, we have worked in policy space, and there's an e-government roadmap that's currently being implemented. And there's, in terms of strategy, the strategy is to strengthen foundational infrastructure, broadband, cloud, and data centers. And the other strategy that Nepal has adopted is the creation of and strengthening of ecosystem. For example, digital payments, cloud, and digital finance, and data center and all. So let me move quickly because I'm taking a little bit more time than allotted, I think. So digital Nepal framework. Let me quickly run through as to what this framework envisages to achieve. It is trying to transform 8 domains that have been identified: agriculture, health, education, and all. So there have also been some progress that's been that I've shown in on the left, right hand side. So this is the overall framework that we're working on, and we believe that implementation would be so institutional alignment would be key as to how we can go about that. So everything remaining the same, all the institutional alignment remaining the same, I think we'll not achieve the goal. So that's one thing that we're trying to come up with a different set of institutional alignment. And the other important aspect is the governance, how we govern this mission, and delivery methodology. What kind of practices do we put in place so that the mission becomes, digital Nepal mission becomes successful. And of course, at the end of the day, you need resources, investment models that you need to work on. Now, there are a few challenges. I will quickly go through that and in my presentation. So to sum it up, we are at an interesting juncture technologically. There is no doubt about that. It's emerging technologies and things are looking so interesting. And we need, as a country, I mean, I think this, you can resonate people coming from South Asian countries. You can also relate to this. We enhance level of readiness to the observed disruption. Technology will bring disruption. All the technologies I mentioned will disrupt in one way or the other. So these are, how can you meaningfully respond to this disruption? I can name few: cryptocurrency. So what could be the policy position in that? Should it be totally banned, or should it be open? E-commerce, AI, sharing, these technologies would all have disruption. And focus should be, I think that you can all, colleagues from South Asian countries can also relate to that. The idea is to create an ecosystem whereby there is a role for all the players, all the stakeholders. So how can you create foundational infrastructure and resources, and so that innovation will follow. And again, forums like SANOG really have important role to play, especially in the light of digital Nepal aspiration that Nepal has adopted. Because at the end of the day, you need networks, you need pipes, and you need know-how and competencies and skill sets of how can you effectively manage those networks, and how can you ensure security on those networks, and so that this end up serving as lifelines. Now, again, this is all I have got this morning, and thank you very much for your attention. And thank you, everybody, for being here this afternoon, this morning. And once again, my sincere welcome to all you international delegates. I wish you a very productive, fruitful stay here in Nepal. Thank you much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manor sir, for the insightful presentation and in terms of Nepal's digital aspirations. Taken back to a lot of years back and how it's transforming right now and going into the future, and then what all challenges we might be encountering, and what all approaches would be more appropriate. Thank you very much, sir, for all the insights in the presentation. Unfortunately, I think we were a little short on the time, so I do apologize for that. Next up, we have a remote keynote presentation from Mr. Rene Fitzmuller. He'll be talking about how the the Global Alliance Task Force helped to get Ukraine connected with the war situation currently between Russia and Ukraine. There are a lot of infrastructure that has been damaged, and there had been some efforts from the global NOG and some of the NOG alliances representatives, and he's going to talk about that in his presentation. If we have Rene available from the Zoom.
Yes. So you can hear me? You see my presentation, hopefully?
Yes, we can see you, Rene.
Thanks. This is a little bit difficult with the remote presentations. Good morning from Germany. Yes, for me, it wasn't possible to come to SANOG right now. I think Mr. Bhattacharya gave a good intro as a keynote, and also he talked about hopes, approaches, and challenges. So I want to talk about hope. I want to talk about challenges, and I want to talk about community and how important is our global community. What's your name? I'm normally working in Flex Optics, but I'm also chairman of the Global NOC Alliance. Normally, we have an easy to do at Global NOC Alliance, a volunteer project to support the global community, to support friends out of the community that have the idea to start a NOC meeting, and we are supporting these people. Software like ecosystem, like licenses, and all our experience to be useful to organize a NOC meeting. In normal work, I'm traveling 1 or 2 days during the year, and I think I have a couple of travels, and I'm supporting a lot of people, a lot of communities, a lot of NOC meetings. I'm a volunteer in a couple of PCs, program committees, organization committees, etc. And since I'm living in this community, I built up a motto, a claim for myself. It's like, what I've learned about community, our tech and IT community is one big family. We don't think in colors, we don't think in races or in genders, and we don't think in borders. And this is the most important to me, to say all people in community I know are my second family. I'm talking to these people like it's my first family. I'm doing the same things with all out of the community, like what I'm doing with my wife, with my daughters, my parents, or also others. But I'm living outside of Berlin, and something happens when I'm going back France. At the beginning of a bar next door from my home. 24th of February this year, it was a nightmare. It was the night from 23rd to 24th for me, for myself, a lot of friends, and yeah, sure, I have a lot of friends in Spain. The RIPE NCC was organizing a NOC meeting in this week, this ENOC, or Ratio Network Operator Network Net Operator Group meeting. It happens 1 time a year. Then we had a couple of workshops in between, and I traveled a couple of times to Russia, to Moscow. I was in Kiev, I was in Belarus, etc., and attended this thing, and I found a lot of friends there, and I was shocked. When the war beginning in 24th of February, I was preparing my daughter for the kindergarten, and I'm daddy's side 6th of October 2020. So my daughter is reaching the 2nd year of birthdays this year, 6th of October, and I need to apologize to mother. Say, babe, this half part of your life right now. We need to talk about Ukraine and Ukraine war and what we try to realize to support also friends and people and companies in Ukraine. So 2 weeks later, this is a map. You can see it's around the corner for me. It's when you see I'm living outside of Berlin, and we have only Poland between Germany and Ukraine. And you can see on the point B, this is Berg, this is Lviv, this is 950 kilometers away from my home. It's normally when you see this blue line is a highway. You can go straight there in 8 hours by truck, and I think in 5 hours, 6 hours by car. And this was one of the reasons why one of my friends from Facebook was publishing his feed in his timeline to say, hey guys, I got a truck, and this is a left to 40 ton truck, and I've organized a pickup station. I will go to Ukraine to help people and will deliver some human goods like jackets and hoodies and pants and food, noodles and all this kind of stuff. And he was asking, who wants to join? And I said, hey, I'm at home, problem. I will call also our friend Falco events. And he said, yes, I have one truck over and you can have the 7.5 truck and then you can go together to Ukraine. So we loaded the stuff. We was driving in hours to Ukraine. Then we met people, and you see this picture on the right side. It was like when we arrived Ukrainian side, we was going back to back with the trucks and deloading the trucks in the Ukraine truck. And it happened in 2 hours, and then we was going back. And when I was back, I decided to organize conf with my board team, with Nishal, with Florence, with Sander and Jan George. These are also board members of the Global NOC Alliance, and I share all my experience from last nights. And guys, this is around the corner for Jan and for me, and also for Sander in Netherlands. And we need to do something. But what can do? What we can? We don't have so much money to say, okay, we can spend all we can make millions of euros or whatever to say, okay, we can support with money. So, but working a lot of years in this community, and we have contacts, and I have an idea we can use, we can ask, and we can use this context to companies and also to vendors and to manufacturers to get some money, get some donation and hardware to say, hey, we can use this donated money, and we can use donated equipment, and we can ship it to Ukraine. So that's a day. Keep Ukraine connected. What was born as a task force from Global Alliance to say, okay, we only with Keep Ukraine connected. We have only the focus to support our friends in Ukraine. What was our vision and our mission? As I mentioned before, this understanding we are linked between the disaster region, Ukraine in such case, and also the global community, to have a voice for all these Ukrainian destroyed infrastructures and all this of infrastructures like ISPs and backbone companies and fiber companies. And our mission was to push all this bad thing into community, into the community a kind of a to say, okay, we need to stay together. We are one community. We don't think in borders. We don't think in races or whatever in genders. We need to stay together. We need to support each other in good times and all bad times. And right now we have a bad time around my corner. So said, okay, when you have some equipment you want to donate, please ship it to Rene's house. And the bad thing was, when we agreed to the situation, was a couple of days before a trip to Germany to a big cloud fair, and I was away from home for 1.5 weeks. And during this time, I wasn't at home. I think a lot of donated equipment arrived. Like my backyard, my garden was fully lit with pallets of equipment. And my wife shared in pictures and said, "Hey, I love your motivation. I love what you're doing, but I went to the garden. I have some free space to sit down or to relax our daughter. You see, and then I need parts of this donated equipment to a neighbor, to the carport, and there's a picture of one of the loads I shift from my backyard and garden to the court of the neighbor. So it's good to have donate equipment, but you need to everything. And I'm a community person. When I do something for the community, I want to be transparent. I want to have the possibility to talk about it. I want to have everything on a clear, visible way for the community. And that's the reason Sunday was 2 days a little bit silent. The reason was couple before we was completely overloaded with all this incoming requests of donation and requests of we need equipment, you see. And at some point we boarded also Natalie from NCC for our task force, and I'm really happy she joined this team. She is our Orga. She was saying, guys, stop this way you're doing. It's not. It isn't in the next months. You're completely destroyed and overloaded, and you need a structure. So we implemented also Jira ITSM to have a possibility to track all this incoming requests for donation, also for request hardware for in Ukraine to rebuild my infrastructures. So in Sander was a little bit silent for 2 days and 2 nights, and then he came back on us and said, "Hey guys, I have our solution. I scripted database." And you can see here our version of our supply and demand database. It's open source scripted. It's based on Python, and it's available for all people in this community at GitHub. So when you want to support something and you're running you're collecting donation like money and equipment, can use this database to collect all this donated equipment, and you can also handle easily all the requests. You can see the first version of the supply and database we scripted. Normally, everyone who wants an account in this system in version 1.1 needs to ping us to create an account by ourselves, and then we push this increments to the repo. And we had this possibility to collect all this information. So you can see the major brands, like what is it? Is hardware, it's for network, it's a power generator, what is the detailed information about it. You are requesting as a donator or as a requester, and then we moved a little bit on with more information. So this is the version 2. We have a link here. You get this link. You create your own by yourself. So self-registration portal. Then you can put in all this information, and then you see how many pieces we got offered from donators, how many pieces are claimed by requests, and how many pieces we reject. Rejected means for ours is like not working equipment. It's not this what you need, or we have better compare equipment for it, or we already reach this equipment into your country and also into your company. When you're going back or next slide, the request view, you can see all this information, like when it was donated or the donator was added to the database, and you can see how many pieces are required and how many pieces are donated. It's good to have tools. It's good to have donations. I'm really happy you will see it in the next slides. Really happy about what we established and what we realized, and this makes me happy to know exactly you did a good job for our friends in the team. It's good to have donations, is to have hardware in your garden, in your backyard, or at the neighbors, but you need to give it to the country. And this project founded via internet, this via a Zoom call, all these relationships we have now are established and created by the internet, Facebook, by Telegram, by WhatsApp, and all this kind of messengers. This is the point. I realized just during this project how important internet is for everyone, and this is the reason we found out all these partners in via internet, and all those collaborations, negotiations was done by the internet. Right now, we are working with the Ministry of Digital Transformation together, and the Ukrainian Internet Association, and also PPK. I need to add it to the slide, and also with partners. And you can collect via partners' local needs. You need to have a distribution network. You need to have a supply chain, not only from your storage to the country over borders. You need also to have a working supply chain in the country to say, okay, when I'm pushing my donated equipment to you, to the country, someone needs to make sure everything is arriving at the request. And we choose steps. DEPS, it's a Ukrainian company, the existing site at 31 years, and they're doing all this in-country logistics. It means they have a warehouse in Lviv. They have a warehouse also in and we are shipping to both of these warehouses. Normally, when it's a hot situation in Ukraine, we're going straight after the border crossing, and we will repacking from our truck or van into the truck or van from Deb. They're driving to Lviv, and then after Lviv, they are going to Kiev, and then they're delivering all this donated to all these resources in the country. By cars, and without getting money from us, it's also a real volunteer job for all these DEPS employees, etc. And the question is why we are doing it. In my intro, I mentioned I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends in Russia. I have a lot of friends in Ukraine. I have a lot of friends in Moldova. I have a lot of friends in Ukraine, and I want to help all these people. And you can see, a war is never ever a good thing. No. And you can see, this is days old. This is a card. What happens right now in Ukraine? You can see all these Kharkiv regions on the eastern part of Ukraine to Russia, also Mariupol to Mykolaiv and Odessa. Everything is quite so old. The Russian controlled the territory are Luhansk and Donetsk, and also the Krim, occupied since 2014. The war stopped in Ukraine, and the war happens before in Luhansk and Donetsk regions, and also the region. This is the reason, or it's not reason. That's the point why we are doing it. We have a lot of occupied regions in Ukraine right now with destroyed infrastructures, and internet is the most important thing to communicate during a war. A lot of people, when I had my right to my first right, humanitarian goods to Ukraine, we had for hours in the middle of nowhere, the border of nowhere. This is a no man's land. It's between two borders without any restrictions. Nobody is saying, oh, this is my part or this is my part. And we were staying there. And I'm the of two years daughter, and I've seen mummies. I've seen women with kids, with babies that came out of Ukraine by car, by food. They walked. They used some cars. It was crazy for me. They arrived, and you've heard all this screaming and crying babies and mummies, and it was a nightmare for my brain, for heart. My heart was broken instant. It was like the mummies and it's don't know it's possible to see my husband or my daddy again. The reason was a time they had this rules of war and was not allowed to leave as a man Ukraine when I was 16 old and 16 up to 3 or 6 years old. It wasn't allowed. Your wife and you needs to leave the car to find a better place to live there in a safe environment. And it was crazy. It was heartbreaking. Also, I want to show you why we're doing it. And you can see from data line and also mapping about backbone and the fibers. And you see, this is data line. Okay, the message, hopefully my presentation is working right now. You can see all fibers from our data line. There are a lot of pops here in Ukraine, in the central, east, and western, northern part, also to the red part here. And then you can see also Reten. And Reten is when you go in here, Belarus, Ukraine, there are pops in their own fibers. And here you can see a couple of pictures of the different areas, like this is out of Kiev and Kharkiv area. You see also the best telecom employees are splicing the fiber in front of a tank. And you see also it's a broken bridge. They are preparing a new drum of fibers and splicing these fibers together, have connect villages and the city over the river. And here you see some some pictures of the first delivery. I did this first delivery by my own to have all kind of experience with border crossing with telecom equipment like switching routers and antennas. It have a stable or to establish a stable supply chain, also with all paperwork from this team, with all paperwork for border crossing, with all paperwork from the donors and also from Global Alliance. This is second delivery with one of our volunteers, with Daniel Ruben from Rocket Solid in western part of Germany. And this is Marcin. He is also part of the PL Network Opera Group, and he is also part of the PC. And this is Daniel again, and this is an example of our workflow part of our main systems. Means all these requests and donors can put all these donated and requested items into our database. We have a weekly machine run. Means when we don't have the real statement, then we have the possibility of the AI to say, okay, we have really compare equipment. Means when the requester was requesting like in 48 a port switch with 2 SFP 10G SFP uplinks, then we have the possibility to say, okay, we don't have a Juniper but we have a Cisco, or we have a Arista, or we have like a micro T switch, and are you okay with it? So then we can match it directly. Also, we have a backup we have a backup system on the Ukrainian side via DEPS. They established also own workflow. Means when you can see it here, when they are receiving the aid at the border, then it's going and delivering from the border, from the border trucks or vans to Lviv warehouse, then are packing and then are delivering the Kiev warehouse, and they're checking the items and checking for company stickers and dropping on company stickers and cleaning this stuff and adding this to a database with serial number, cleaning it from stickers and codes from the old owner to make sure nothing is outside of the chassis you can see and you can imagine from which company it's coming. And then everything is also in box and then to the database and delivers this goods to the client. When some requesters wants to have stuff, clients have the possibility to go to also to the warehouse site. Then they can call. They can send all informations via formular on the website, and then it's going to the database, and then they're signing a contract for us 8, and it's being the warehouse in Lviv or in Kiev to the requester. So what we did up to right now, in all we had 5 deliveries. You can see the first one was the biggest one, the largest one. We had around 1,200 pieces of equipment, network equipment, which we delivered. The second one was around 160, 130 on the fourth, and then the last one was mostly a splicer for destroyed fibers together. All in overview of 4 shipments we did right now, it's 1,680 items like network switches, antennas, etc. And we submitted right now with also our deliveries like around 670 companies. I want to talk about some numbers. I did right now 5 deliveries, around 680,000 worth of equipment, around 5 we delivered right now. We delivered 17 splices with around of 85,000 euros. And we was possible to buy splices as only the reason is we got of donations from events. I give this presentation, etc. And we got 2 or 3 days ago, we got 100,000 euros donation from SES Satellite. So we right now a couple of new splicers like Inno Instruments and also Fujiko's, and also some OTDR gear to measure the fibers between A and B. This is a map which parts of Ukraine or which parts we supported with our equipment. The green one was 18 deliveries. It was like 18 companies. It's a Kiev region, and then you're going back to the first. You can see this are here in the east, also in the southern parts is destroyed and occupied regions right now. So it's difficult to get access with deliveries and. Normally not really allowed to support those missions right now as association from Netherlands and Germany. I mean, what we're doing right now, it's we are continuing with our conversations with donors, with partners, and the most important thing at the moment, it's governments. We are talking to European Union, we are talking to Euro Commission. Also, we are sitting with our knowledge and our doing this Ministry of Digital Transformation and also telecommunication right now. They are looking in our tool to use it also, or to work with the need of the Ukrainians right now. Also, we are talking to the Poland and to the Polish government regarding this border crossing scenery in Kosovo right now. It needs to be fast. Normally, we are waiting minimum 3 hours up to 7 hours across the border of the Ukrainian side. We don't have any problems with the paperwork from the government from in the Ukrainian side, and yes, also we are talking to United Nations about some topic we can help and support and to other projects regarding the war. Last but not least, who is behind this Keep Ukraine Connected task force from Global Network Alliance? They were saying, oh no, this is a project. No, I did the first ride with humanitarian goods. I shared my experience, and no success without a good team. Behind the Keep Ukraine Connected team is Karine, a partner of Karine is all our marketing and texting and website and all this kind of stuff. Also, like designing, we have a hacker camp in Netherlands right now. She did also all this kind of banners, flyers, and also information flyer for attendees of this MCH 2022 in Netherlands. Natalie is our orga head from the task force. When she is saying stop, then we stop, we are listening. And Natalie is working with C, Stefan and Jan Schosch, the board members of the Open Alliance, are working for Six Connect and doing really good stuff in any cars topics and also Ipv6. And yes, that was, it's me. And then we extended during our work on this project. We added also happy to have the possibility to add some cool people to our team. We are open when you want to join, when you have some you want to include in this team, when you have some knowledge we're missing right now. We're looking for Python developer to work on our data to make it more comfy. So when you speak not only English, not speak only like other languages, also Python, please ping me. We add Eric Bays. Eric Bays is the owner of A2B and Ipv6. He is doing a lot of things in Netherlands. He is one of our country leads of Netherlands. Daniel Rubin and Martin Scherer. Martin is western part of Germany. Volunteer driver. He's driving all the way from west part of Germany through Germany, through Poland to Ukraine to deliver goods. And Marcin is based in Poland, 2 hours away from the Ukrainian border. And Daniel and Marcin have their own warehouse, and it's possible to ship all this data equipment right out one of the booth warehouses, and then they are driving on own cost and own time to Ukraine and Istapal. She worked for Nixat, is a community-driven IXP and Republic and Czech Republic, and she supporting us also on the committee. Also thanks to the wider Cook team. Natalia Kletner is doing a really good job. She is a representative of the Ukrainian Internet Association, so APPK. Bogdana from NSEC, Dimitri, and the whole depth were doing a really good job. The team from the Ukraine Internet Association and also Ministry of Digital Transformation, and also again Julia Boyan, she did a really amazing job to prepare all this paperwork to have easy border cross on the Ukrainian side. Short overview of all donators. They gave us hard, also money, and also big thanks to our employees. To say Six Connect and also Flex Optics, they give us all the time we need to work on this project to make this success and this support Ukraine successful. Give us spare time, give us possibility to have a ride to Ukraine, to talk to the peoples and work on detail on this project. When you have any questions, when you have any recommendation, when you have any ideas, whatever, ping me. We are a mailing list like ukrainealliance.org. I will send this over to Rupesh to share this presentation, and you can publish it. One last word from me in person. When something happens in your country, stay together and help each other. It's the most important thing. When see in the happy faces, when we have done a delivery to Ukraine, it's amazing. It's so amazing. And these are things you can do as a community. And this is an example what you can do. We have the tool, we have a visible blueprint, and we can work together as a community. And when you work as a community on such kind of disasters, it makes you better. So And no, I'm done. Thanks for the possibility to give this presentation and also what can happen when you live this community. And yes, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Rene. A good effort. As Rene said, it would not be possible without the teamwork. As he suggested, stay together and work as a team, help each other, and that's what the NOG and community is all about, isn't it? So we never know like when the disaster or emergency will come in. So only way to address that is to be prepared. And this kind of, I think, sharing this experiences is very important. That's what I think that the experience that Rene has shared is for the purpose of anything that might happen in future. We at Nepal are pretty much like a little bit familiar with this kind of situation when the mega earthquake happened in 2015. And then a lot of ISPs, Computer Association, and a lot of other organizations, ISP Association, immediately like got together and then they tried to help at least restore all the connectivity, computers, and then even the building the shelter for wherever the earthquake has affected and made people homeless. So the consolidated effort of the community is very important, as Rene mentioned. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but we might not have time for questions. So maybe later on, if you have any questions, you can pass it on to me, and I'll definitely get back from Rene as well as Dr. Manohar Bhattrai regarding any questions that you may have. With this, we come to an end of this opening plenary session. We have quick short break for tea. Right now it's 11:20. We were supposed to end at 11. So we'll come back. Maybe can we shorten it 20 minutes? Okay. So we'll come back at 11:40 if we can. Let's have a cup of tea or coffee, and then we'll come back and gather it over here, if that's okay. And we have next session will be chaired by Indivar Badal. And we have a lot of Ipv6 related presentations from WorldLink, from Epinic, from Google, and from Dr. Philip Smith, SANOG. So please do come back. We have very interesting presentations lined up in the next session. Thank you.
The first one is from Raju Chalise. It's about the access layer challenges for Gsp V6. Then we have Pubudu from Epinic doing a presentation on Ipv6 deployment in South Asia. Then we have Xiaowen Ma from Google presenting about cloud Ipv6 innovation. Then Philip will present about global routing table update. So we have quite a bit of Ipv6 related topics and also more technical than our earlier session. So the participation, and it's so glad to see so many people, getting together after such a long time. So I'd like to request Raju Chalise from WorldLink. He's a senior network engineer at WorldLink, which is a big ISP operating in Nepal. He has over 10 years experience in access network. He's also actively involved in NPNOG community, in training and in other community events. So I'd like Raju to take the floor now. Let's give a big round of applause.
Hello, good morning, everyone. This is me, Raju Chalise from WorldLink. So, endeavors I have described quite a few regarding me, and today, basically, I'm going to cover up the access layer challenges that we have faced in deploying IPv6 in our network. So the slide just brings a little glimpse over the history of Gsp V6, not all the way from 3315 RFC up to RFC at 415. So those who are familiar with the deployment of IPv6 for the service provider network, they might are quite known to these RFC that we are displaying at the right side of our slide. So we are moving into this one. So in WildLink, we started testing in May 2016, and then first live was made in July 2019. Then basically for CP and the PNG, we are going with the stateful DSCP, and towards for the CP and the devices, the client and devices, we are on SLAC, that is stateless. So after our initial deployment at 29th July, so we are the major contributor for the IPv6 update in our nation. So this is what the result that we are seeing, and the slide shows that what is the current status of IPv6 deployment in Nepal compared to the world and Asia. And this is what this chart shows, the deployment over our areas, specifically for the WildLink. And today we are going to discuss about these 4 key points that we feel that every service provider who is going to serve the customer with Gsp V6 have to deal with. Yeah, because these are the challenges that we faced during the deployment of Gsp V6 in our network. So first point is understanding the flow. Yeah, UTF. So we need to understand how exactly the protocol works. So initial handshaking that we all are aware of basically is the SARR flow. Then how the customer session gets renewed, and in case of renew failure, that we need to understand. So these 4 points are highlighted over here, and we will go in depth about all of these points, and if there are any queries. So I feel if you have any questions, so feel free to note it, and we will discuss it at the end of our presentation. So let's move into the flow. So this is what basically every service provider, so they will have similar kind of network topology. So it's typically describing about how CP is going to connect with the PNG. So symbolic topology is here, and maybe we all are familiar with this one because this is the one that every operator deploys in their network. So after this, the slide is trying to describe that how exactly the IPv6 runs at customer home. So basically, we are seeing in a screen is the identity association for network non-temporary address. This is IANA that we are seeing it here. One block that actually serves the customer with internet access is IANA, and after that one we are seeing it another block, which is we are seeing it in this green borderline, that is IANA PD. And at the bottom side, you are seeing what is the exact process. Yeah, we are seeing it with the numbering that solicit packet going out of the CP at first number, and then before advertise comes into the packet that PNG receives from the CP, it has to be validated. So for this validation, we have the AAA server at the top of our slide. You are seeing it. So PNG forwards that particular request coming up from the CP in terms of solicit packet. It goes to their AAA. It gets validated, and the PNG sends with the access request packet. Then after that one, whenever access is accepted, the AAA server validates that user, and PNG is ready to serve with the advertised packet. So we are seeing the flow, and After advertise is received at the CP side, we are seeing the request masses is the next one at third point, and whenever that request comes into, and then the reply masses from BNG comes in. So this is the initial handshaking. So we are quite known to this one. So after this one, we need to understand the flow, because understanding the flow is the key point, because until you understand how exactly the protocol works, so this will bring in lots of complexity that before deployment, one should has the very sound knowledge of a particular protocol. So this is where this slide is going to tell us the whole flow, that how exactly the Gsp V6 works in a particular CP. And at its right side, we have highlighted some of the packets. So I hope this is quite clear to all of us. So whenever the Gsp client is starts, we are seeing it here that it goes to the init state, and after the init state, it is first sending the solicit packet, and the solicit packet, if it doesn't get the advertised from BNG, so it has to look through the round circle is mentioning that if there is no advertise, it has to keep on sending the solicit. So, but one point we have to highlight here, what will be the pattern of solicit masses that will come up from the CP. So it has to be rate limited at certain pattern. So the CP cannot bombard the BNG with solicit masses. This is what we need to understand, and maybe in coming up slide, we will see the glimpses that what if there is no mechanism to rate limit these kind of packets. So solicit, after solicit, we have very small text over there. So it got the advertised and then continues with the request. And along with this one, the duplicate address detection that we all are aware of, it has to be done. And after that, when the system gets bound and the renew cycle continues. So after renew, we are also seeing is T1 and T2 timer. So that is something that whenever client session gets extended, based on the timer, CP has to send either renew or rewind. Okay, so T1 timer is basically for the renew packet, and after T1's expiry, whenever it goes to the T2 cycle, it has to send the rewind. So what if a rewind doesn't get any reply? So this is what the red line showing us, that it again has to go to the init state, and from there the same cycle continues. So we basically have to understand this flow, and I hope we all are aware of this one if we are going through Gsp V6. So towards the right side, we're seeing the packet types, so which we will discuss further. And along with this packet types that we have seen in this flow, solicit, advertise, request, and reply. So we have to pay attention to some of few messages that we are highlighting: request with ORO only, solicit with ORO only, rewind with IANA, and rewind with IFPD, and plus ORO. So what is this ORO? So we highlighted it here. It's option request options. Basically, there are plenty of options available within the Gsp V6. And we are basically highlighting here the option 24, which is the DNS search list. And the last one is option 23, which is DNS V6 server list. So this is what I hope we got the basic flow. And here a little bit more text and more highlighted box are here. So it is basically mentioning you how exactly a system establishes within CP and BNG in coordination with the radio. So the first packet is the solicit that is coming up with a certain transaction ID, XID, the transaction ID. So if you see it, it's on the same transaction ID, the BNG is replying with advertised message, and before this one, the access request has to reach at the AAA server. So from access request, we are seeing the access is assured. Yeah. So once advertised comes in, it has to be in the same transaction ID, and with advertised, what we are highlighting here is block of IANA and IUPD. And after this one, we are seeing some option 23 and option 24 here. So in advertise and solicit, if we see closely everything, whatever customer is requesting at the top, IANA or IAPD or the ORO, whatever is being requested, it is all being requested in one single packet. And whatever the BNG is replying in advertise is in one single packet. So we need to understand that communication at first stage, whenever the initial handshaking is happening, it is in one single message exchange. So after this one, so after advertise, the ONT sends the request. And here we are also seeing it, the IANA, that we are seeing it as the Identity Association for Non-Temporary Address, and then Identity Association for Prefix Delegation, IANA and IAPD, then ORO. Yeah. So the request transaction ID is maintained, and on the same transaction ID, BNG is replying with IANA and IAPD, and bottom, we are seeing it as the domain server name, which is option 23, and domain shares list, which is option 24. So here, what we can see from this slide is whatever communication is happening with the BNG, it's on single message exchange, right? So for all transaction, we are seeing single message is being sent from CP, and the BNG is replying on that particular message. So this is what has to be in the entire protocol, whether it's in a renew cycle, whenever the renew gets completed or renew gets failed. Yeah. So we need to understand that single exchange of messages. Yeah. Right here, we are focusing that we, in entire RFC, we are discussing about the RFC Ipv6, and in Ipv6, we believe, and the RFC gives emphasis to the single exchange of messages. Okay. So I am giving a little bit more emphasis into this point, that if our CP and if our DHCP server BNG, if it believes on the implementation that the whatever initial handshaking or the renewal has to be done in single exchange of messages, then most likely you will not face any issues. Okay. But what if the CP believes in multiple state machines and the BNG believes in single state machine? So there you will face some challenges. So we are going to describe it. I hope this is clear to all of us. Let's move to the another slide. And this basically in the right side, some text over here defining that SARR exchange happening on particularly UDP port 546 on CP, and the server will reply on 547. So this is what basically is the UDP port number that we need to understand for some firewalling techniques we have to apply on our BNG. And next, it is about the renew and reply. Yeah, means in earlier slide we saw about the SARR, which is we recall as the initial handshaking. So after SARR completes, so I described you about T1 timer and T2 timer. Yeah, that basically is the timer which is given by the BNG. So after T1 timer, CP has to send the renewal packet. So we are saying it. So I'm taking the time as 11 AM. So if my T1 timer is 600 seconds, which basically is 10 minutes, and my T2 timer is 960. And if you ask me that what is the exact release time? So here, the DHCP server, basically the BNG is giving a release time of 20 minutes to the customers. So we need to confirm that what will be my T1 timer and T2 timer. So basically T1 timer is 50% of release time, and T2 timer is 85% of release time. Yeah. So exactly, we need to understand when exactly your CP is going to speak with your BNG. So we see after 10 minutes, yeah, it's basically the T1 expiry. So whenever T1 is getting expired, we are seeing the renewal packet with certain transaction ID is coming up. And look here, the main point that we need to highlight. Earlier, I was saying that everything in SARR is happening with single exchange of messages. Right now, it's not single exchange of messages. Here you are seeing it. This client is asking the BNG to renew its NA address, IA-NA address with a different transaction ID, which we see is as 444 and IAPD in different masses, which is V6F. You see it's different. Yeah. So earlier in slide, we were saying that single exchange of messages, but here it is talking about two masses. CP is requesting with two messages, and for the same one, BNG is replying. So now it differs that what is the RFC that your CP is complying to, and what is the RFC your BNG is complying to. This is where we need to understand. If your CP is on RFC 3315, so basically you will not see these two messages, even in renewal. You will see a single message. But the CP, since from the observation that we are seeing in our network, we saw that two messages are being exchanged. So why is this? Because CP complies to 8415. So here we are seeing two messages. So if its CP is in 3315, you will definitely see a single message. And the BNG is replying for the both of the messages. Yeah. If CP is sending two messages, you may ask me that how BNG is going to react, because it already replied with one message. So is it going to reply with another message? Yes, it will reply. But BNG, if it is in 3315 RFC, it will include all of the messages, because 3315 believes in single exchange of messages. And the newer one that we saw at the very first slide, at 415, it gives the flexibility and the granular control over providing the multiple exchange of messages. Yeah, and we are going to talk about it. I hope this is what is clear for all of us. And in Bitfin, we are seeing some accounting happening with the BNG and the AAA server. So this is what this slide is trying to cover up. And like I was talking about, what happens if there is renewal failure? Because this is the point where the most likely the problem starts to begin. Yeah. So whenever a customer's lease is not able to get extended, so this is where we will face the issue. So I will tell you that what will be the simulation point, or what will be the cases in which this case can appear in our network. Most likely the connection between CP and OLT, we all are familiar with OLT. So if CP and OLT, the connection is fine and something happens at the upper layer. Yeah, upper layer means above OLT, if your uplink is flapping or it is being down for, let's say, more than lease period. So what will happen is ONT at T1 timer, it will start a renewal. If there is no reply from the BNG, it will start sending the rewind at expiry of T2 time. So let's say that T1 also got expired and T2 also got expired. What will happen next time whenever T2 gets expired? So like the flow I shown you earlier, the whole DSCP process needs to be resetted here. Now this depends upon the vendor, yeah, which CP you are using it. So how they design your CP, that after rewind failure, whether they are going to reinitiate everything or they are going to take the state of IANA and PD and starting sending the solicit for each of those state machines which were initiating with IANA and PD. So if the CP is going to send the next solicit for IANA, which was not able to get renewed, and for IAPD, it is going to send another solicit. This is where the problem is most likely to begin. And the last stage that was highlighted in this red box, it is a very crucial point to observe. So I recommend, before deploying all of these things into the production network, please have a close look that by unplugging the OLT's uplink, you should check it, or by disabling the particular VLAN that fits your customer, you should check it that what happens in your CP if the renewal of lease is not happening. So this is where you will see that whether the CP is sending 2 packets with different transaction ID or a single transaction ID, right? So I was trying to highlight this one. So I highlighted that if it is 3315, I hope it is clear. If it is 3315, we will see just one transaction ID. So if it is 8415, we will see 2 different transaction ID. So you may question me that why we need 2 different transaction ID in solicit. Can't we go with single transaction ID in solicit message to avoid further complications? This question is a very valid question. I brought this question for you because somebody in your network, your colleague or someone is going to ask you. Because if entire thing can work with single transaction ID, why we need multiple transaction ID? Okay. So since we experienced this thing, it's a real case study that I brought to you. So here, actually, with the initial deployment, we were also not aware of the point that why exactly this is happening. So we found that at a certain point of time, at our point of presence, we found that some of our CP was sending enormous amount of solicit, and they were with different transaction ID. So if this happens, okay, so in red highlight, we are seeing it within 1 minute, 116 solicit messages were sent by the CP. This was like a solicit bomb. Okay, imagine if this happens with the amount of customer that you have in network with just for 10%. So this will easily cross 15K packet per second with just 8,000 subscriber, and your BNG's control plane is never going to come up from that violation. Means even your legitimate customers, they won't be able to connect it because the solicit is already valid. So this is what is the impact if we do not check how exactly which is the RFC that is being implemented across CP and the BNG, right? So we need to understand that what further 8415, because this is the latest RFC, what it talks about. It talks about the multiple DSCP servers. It talks about multiple DSCP servers. So maybe if I talk to you that multiple DSCP server in a single VLAN, you may question me that how this is feasible. But in Gsp V6, there is an option of preference within arbitrage message. So DSCP servers are allowed to set this preference option, and based on that one, the CPU will decide that to whom it has to latch. So 8415 is a very advanced one, and it provides the granular control over lots of things. We also need to talk about the ORO that we highlighted in our earlier slide, basically the option request options. So with 8415, ORO can be the singleton parameters, like means what the RFC tells is CP are allowed to request ORO explicitly. Means if CP is complying to 8415, you cannot question the vendor that why you are sending ORO. ORO only means within solicit, the CP can send the ORO request explicitly. So ORO being the singleton options, what we need to see is if CP is kept on sending the ORO packets, so we are seeing it that at certain point of time, multiple solicit transaction ID will most likely come up in your network. So here with 8415, IANA rewind failure happened, then IAPD rewind failure happened, and then we saw that different solicit transaction ID are being exchanged. And what happens is, if BNG is not configured to reply with the explicit ORO packets, so after the solicit ORO, it will go on sending the request with ORO. And after 10 consecutive requests with ORO, we will see the solicit with ORO. So meanwhile, if you start debugging and seeing that this type of packet are falling in, and you may question with your CPE provider that why solicit with ORO are coming up, because I actually do not need this. Because what I need in DSCP V6 communication is basically the IANA for providing the direct internet access to the WAN interface of CPE, then IAPD for the LAN side Ipv6 customer, and next one is the DNS V6. So even after the CP already got all these options, why it is asking for the ORO? Why ORO? Because ORO is something is mentioned in the AT415, and it's, if your CP is complying with the AT415, so definitely it will ask for the ORO. But whether you need ORO or not, you need to decide that one. If you don't need it, then you may have to ask with the vendor for suppressing this one. So here we confirm that ORO is one of the crucial options that can be asked by the CP. And you are seeing it that if your BNG is not configured to reply for the ORO packets, specifically for the option 24, option 23 is something that we all know that it's the DNS V6 address list, and it's already available with the reply packets. So ORO, and for option 24, we need to confirm that whether we need it or not. If you ask me that what is the significance of ORO with option 24, it's basically just a suffix that gets added into a particular host name. Let's say if your domain is abc.com.np, and it is going to add it after every keyword that customer is going to type as browser or at sale. Let's say host 1, then enter, and it's going to add that suffix. That's it. This is what is the significance. So just for this significance means just adding the particular domain search list after a particular host name, is it going to trouble you more at the operational level of each and every customer's connectivity? That is something that you need to decide it. So you may at certain point of time, you may want to disable it. So it is a decision that will come up once you see the entire flow. So here we are trying that the ONT is sending multiple solicit, and BNG is replying as it gets the solicit. Yeah, the first solicit is being replied with advertised message, and then request and reply. SARR got completed. But immediately after SARR got completed, it is sending solicit. Why solicit? Yeah, you may ask it. But these solicit are actually for the ORO. So here you are seeing it. Solicit, if it has the request for IANA and PD, BNG running in 3315, it may validate that packet and will reply you. But if it is only with the solicit with the ORO, it may not reply you. And if it does not reply, so at that time, we need to verify that what is exactly happening. Okay, now actually we are running out of time, and the contents are very large, so I may go quickly into this one. So if there are any confusions, so I encourage you to put up the question in your paper and ask that one. So here, let's say if your BNG, yeah, if the BNG is configured to delete the binding of customer on renegotiation, yeah, it's a very known parameter that most of the popular vendors providing the BNG have it. And if you have configured this one, so we will come on to DBOR later on. So what will be the effect is, the once you keep on asking for certain parameter with solicit transaction ID with different numbers. So one of solicit will get the address, yeah, means it will get the response from BNG. But even after the number of solicit is already higher, and the machine, the CPE machine keeps track of the each and every solicit, it will ask on next transaction ID for the solicit. This will go on, and with DBOR configured as the BNG, what it will do is it will immediately remove the session after second solicit is coming up. The first one it discards, and after that one, even if the second solicit is coming, and it will silently remove the session of the customer and just gives a new addressing to the customer. So if this happens, what will happen is the CP has the older address because the BNG has never informed the CP. CP has the older address and the BNG has the newer address. So this is where whatever CP is going to request, the BNG doesn't have. And at the reply packet, the BNG is going to reply with no address available, no prefix available in a status code message. So imagine if this happens, what will happen? The customer will entirely lose the IPv6 connectivity. It means if you are heavily relying on IPv6, then your customer will not be able to have the connectivity. So this will be the effect for your customers. So I given the name as the DBOR effect. So the impact will be that there will be no IPv6 at the CP. The customer will start complaining that why my YouTube, why my Google, Facebook, it's all going very, very slower because it's all relying on IPv4. And let's say that it's adverse effect. Yeah. So, and I must say that this goes on loop until the customer CP gets restarted. It goes on loop. And if you experience this one, and if you have a broader view and want to analyze what will be the impact that we have seen in our network, means your BNG's control plane is already violated for the solicit. The genuine customers are also not getting connected, and you will see the spike at your NAT card, yeah, the MAMS one that serves for the IPv4 traffic. And maybe while this problem is going on, so some of your colleague who actually works at the access layer, they may found the trick that they get some older router which are running on 3315, and they will replace customer and they will fix it because 3315 means single exchange of messages. So they will also tell you, this is what we have seen in our network, and we are sharing our experiences with you. So lots of things is going to happen if there is no compliance between CP and BNG. Okay, so I took most of the time in explaining the first point, so I'm very sorry for that. I went too deep into this one. So let's move into the second point. And I think I covered the most of the point that RFC implementation across BNG and CP has to be very, very similar. It has to be the main implementation, even with the same RFC, what you need to see is that what exactly is the parameter that you need in CP, and for the same one, whether your BNG is complying to it or not. So we need to identify what is the behavior of customers. I already told you that if you are a newer RFC, basically the CP can request for the ORO parameters. So this is what we can read out the RFC and confirm that whether the behavior is accurate or not. And here we are actually describing a parameter that we had in our BNG. It was DBOR, like I mentioned you earlier. So what does DBOR does? It's explicitly defined over here. So if DBOR is enabled in DSP V6, most likely with solicit, with ORO only packet that we described earlier, what will happen is existing DSP session will get cleared up and new session will be established at the BNG. So while BNG does it, yeah, it doesn't send any keep alive messages or any information to the CP. So if this is happening, your CP might not be aware of this one. Okay. So we have highlighted that single exchange of multiple IA options is very, very mandatory. So here we in this RFC, we are saying that how the CP has the V6 implemented. Mostly the green one, we need to confirm that the CP could continue with the single session. Means single session, if CP maintains the single session, then most likely you will not face more issues because everything is happening in single exchange of messages. And Along with this one, the first option, the resetting the state machine and sending solicit again and again, it is not a feasible option. So we will not adopt this one. The second one seems to be adopted by most of the vendors, but here there are lots of issues that we highlighted before. And the third one is a little bit more good option, but it is not fail-proof because it still has challenges. We need to understand this all in depth. And next one is DVOR. So basically what I tell you is it's okay in Gsp V4 that you will not face much issues. But if you enable the DVOR in Gsp V6 without having the compliance in CP, so you will face issues. I will take a couple of minutes and shortly I will finish it up. Okay, these are the recommendations. So I highlighted that the single exchange of masses is the one prime requirement that we all have to understand because it makes the network stack very, very lighter and much control one. Because exchanging multiple masses is just for the sake of ORO, which is optional parameter, and doesn't make much sense until you explicitly need them. Okay. Okay, I come to the second last point, and I hope there is no much slide after this one. So multicast, we all know that Ipv6, yeah, basically is the main requirement is multicast that you should turn it across all of your routers, switches, and then even up to the CP. So multicast, you should not put any filter in none of your switches, and even in router, if you're applying some kind of filter with this MAC addresses, you should not apply it because they will block your multicast traffic flow. And if you are applying some strong control limit within the switches, you should disable it or uplift the PPS limit. And next one is if you are with a different vendors, well, you need to make sure that whether they are blocking the Ipv6 control explicitly, because most of the vendor they allow the Ipv6 and some of actually they block it. You need to understand that how exactly they do. And the last one, actually some of vendor, since I work at the access layer, I will tell you that some of vendor, they will allow you a very fascinating option by enabling some of forwarding related, which actually does snooping of your DHCP packets in V4 and as well as into the V6. So snooping V4 and V6 packet, it's always good to have the information of a customer at OLT, but it does with its own implementation. And what they do is that they check each incoming and outgoing packets. So while they do it, they actually maintain a list of entries for a particular customer. So they may not allow you to go above 4. So if there is a mass power cut or flapping happening at above OLT, so what will happen is the overwriting of these entries, yeah, will happen so frequently. And if this happens, the legitimate reply masses coming up from the BNG, it will not reach out to the CP. So at that time, the CP will not get the proper message from the BNG. And at that time, even the CP will have the older session and BNG will have a newer session. So address mismatch happens. And you should not enable those type of options. So this is what was our observation. And I'm very sorry that I took a little bit more time. If there is any question from any of you, I'm happy to listen it. Okay, no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Raju, for the wonderful presentation. There are lots of providers in the room, and I'm sure there will be lots of questions. And I suggest you to meet him during the breaks and discuss and put the questions. Sorry, we are running out of time. So without further delay, I'd like to request Pubudu from Epinic to present on the state of Ipv6 development in South Asia. Please welcome him with applause.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pubudu from Ipv6. It's really nice to see such a full house after a long time, face-to-face physically. So today I'm going to present about the Ipv6 deployment stats in South Asia, focusing on South Asia. So first, let's look at some global stats. So this is from Google. It shows that we are almost 40% end user readiness there. So during the pandemic time also, it grew from 30% to about 40%. And you can see a linear growth from the last 5 years. The Facebook stats, it's showing starting from 2017. There's slightly lesser percentage, but that's because of the way the measurements are taken. But you can see the trend is consistent. It's linearly growing. And this is our Ipv6 stats, and it's also showing the same pattern, but even lesser percentage. As I said, it depends on how we take measurements. So let's look at the world table, the top 10 from 2020 January, and now you can see there are new entrants in the table marked with gold stars. And the positions have changed. So the first two positions still remain the same, India, Belgium, and strangely, USA has gone down. So I was curious to see what happened. If I look at the NTT, T-Mobile, so big AS numbers, all of them shows like a downward trend. And at one point towards the end of 2021, it shows like a 10% drop. All I can think of is due to some reason, maybe people working from home, there were not many users using Ipv6 stats, Ipv6 compared to Ipv4. Yeah, you can see from our region, Sri Lanka has entered the top 10. Okay, this is a closer look at South Asia. Just like how diverse our region is, our stats are also quite diverse. You can see top 10, bottom 10, middle 10, everyone is included. Yeah, so India, as you can see, Sri Lanka also at the top 10 in the world rankings. Nepal has actually dramatically grown from the last time which we presented about Ipv6 2.5 years ago. Pakistan has like a government mandate to deploy Ipv6, so we can see the numbers will grow in the coming years. Bangladesh is a bit of a mystery. I heard there was a certain hardware to blame, and then there was a billing issue to blame. I don't know which one is true, but we have some really influential people in this room as well, so they're working hard to get these numbers up. So hopefully you can see the numbers growing soon. Maldives, Afghanistan, not much information coming from Afghanistan, but Ipv6 is also working together with the Foundation to help these deployments in Afghanistan. So India, just to show who's leading the game, Reliance has, from the beginning, they were really high, so they are showing 97%, followed by Bharati, Vodafone, and likewise all the big players are joining. India's ACE graph. So this is a different statistic. It shows the connections between ACE numbers. On the right side, you can see Ipv4 quite dense, and on the left side is the Ipv6. So what you see in the middle are like big ISPs with lots of traffic, and on the edge of like the perimeter of the circle are the end networks. And Sri Lanka, it shows Dialog has actually started the Ipv6 deployment, followed by Mobitel's SLT. And Learn has been a long time adopter of Ipv6, but sitting at 15% at the moment. And this graph, this is nothing to do with the Sri Lanka's economic or political status. This graph used to be like this as long as I can remember. This is because of the government regulations. Like if you want to be an ISP, you need to buy spectrum, which is like a huge cost. So you don't see much AS numbers appearing here. And most of smaller networks, enterprises, they are also getting services from Dialog or SLT. So they are not operating in independent networks. Nepal, WorldLink is leading. And then we can see a lot of development in classic NP, so second one from the bottom. And then Vianet, Subisua also joining, and we probably see lots of development in this in Nepal in the coming years. And this is what Nepal's WIS-AS graph looks like, interconnections between these networks. Bhutan, BT Telecom and Draknet are leading the way. In Bangladesh, this is what's happening in Bangladesh. Like you can see, Grameen Phone has actually started deploying V6 to their end users, and the others are doing some activity, probably testing. So hopefully these numbers will increase. Pakistan, Cybernet is having 30%, 34% IPv6 capability. So they are leading the way. Hopefully the others will follow. This is what happens in each country. Like one major player will start deploying and others will start learning from them, and they will also start deploying. So hopefully these numbers will increase too. Afghanistan, nothing much happening. Hopefully we can help them to get improve these stats. Maldives, it's the same story. So this is from the registry side. This is the demand for IPv6 in South Asia. On the left side, it's IPv6, which shows steady growth regardless of pandemic effects. Last year has been the highest, like we have dedicated the highest number in the last year. And IPv4, it has huge demand, but we have nothing to offer. So that's why it looks flat in the few years leading to this year. So this is funny, like Philip Smith, when he saw this banner, he was asking me, this question should have been asked 10 years ago, but we have been asking this question for the last 10 years. So hopefully start the journey, then we don't have to bring this banner again to the SANOG conference. So how do you start the journey? If you already have IPv4, then you automatically get qualified to get IPv6. And you don't have to pay for that because we only charge, like it only charges for whichever that incurs higher cost. So for example, if you have a /22 of IPv4, you can get a /32 without adding any cost. And you don't need to evaluate it because there's no evaluation activity. So you only have to click literally 2 clicks to get IPv6 prefix on your account. And this is what Ipv6 is doing to help the uptake of IPv6 in our region. So we track, just like I showed, there's measurements and tracking reports are available for your analysis. And then trainings are done just like what Dave was doing for the last 4 days. We attend the NOGs and have training sessions. There are standalone workshops as well. And for like higher level planning for governments, also there's direct country assistance programs are there. And also if you are running into a problem specific to your network, we also do remote or face-to-face technical assistance. This is someone from Ipv6 will look at your network and identify any troubles that you're having and help you to resolve them. We have done this with few companies already. And this website is quite useful. If you go there, you can find the success stories, challenges that others have faced, how to get IPv6 training, and lots of information are available here. And not only that, we know that it requires some sort of lot of funding for deploying IPv6. And if you are running into funding problems, ECF Asia grants are specifically available to cater for that. So you can go to this website and find out how to apply for this. And depending on your requirements, there's an independent committee who consists of experts like Gaurav and then Sumon are in the panel. So they will evaluate your application, and then if you qualify, you'll get this grant starting from 30K USD to all the way up to 250K. So the application time has already opened, and it will last until the resources exhaust. So I've just gone through pretty quickly because to save time. If you have any questions, you can ask now, or you can come to the help desk outside.
Thank you. Thank you, Puvudu. Thanks for saving some time as well. So if you have any questions or you want to discuss how to get V6 and all that, Ipv6 has a help desk outside. You can catch them during the breaks and talk to them. So our next presenter today now is Shaun Ma from Google. He's going to talk about cloud IPv6 innovation. Let's welcome with a warm applause.
Hi. Really nice to talking to you face in face today. So my name is Shao. I'm a group product manager for Google Cloud. So today I will cover the world is actually migrated to IPv6, and also a lot of cloud provider offer the IPv6 now. And not only for the telcos, but also for telcos customer, enterprise customer. So there's a lot of cloud product changing from IPv4 to IPv6 already. Then I will talk about the other innovation here. Just like the last speaker talked about the IPv6 adoption, especially in South Asia here, it's really, really great. So you can see from India, it's pretty much number one, 60%. Then Nepal also 30%. Then you may wonder, yeah, how this IPv6 grow really, really fast now? If you look at the industry here, the IoT and the 5G is really driven the IPv6 adoption. So you can see from Gartner, by 2025 here, there will be over 4.5 billion equipment connected to the network. The most are through the 5G here. So if you calculate the IPv4 total address, which is 9 power of 10, 4.2 billion only. But if you move to IPv6 here, you can get like a 38 power of 10. That means you have enough IPv address for every equipment and so on. So especially with the edge computing, the VR, AR, all those kind of additional power. So anything you search, you have one equipment here, but the back in cloud, there's a lot of equipment help you to do the calculation. So that's why it's not only how many equipment you need to connect. The back-end cloud, there's a lot of IPv6 going on as well. One of the Google Cloud top customer, they are running out of IPv4 private IP addresses. So they deploy virtual machine, they deploy the GKE, the container networks. So because the massive of the virtual machine, massive of pod, then they running out of IPv4 address in cloud already. So nowadays they pushing Google to migrate to IPv6 now. After for the past 15 years, so Google actually innovate in a lot of domain around networking. It's not only try to get the IP address from DHCP, V4, SLAC, all those kind of all those IPv6, they need to re-innovation to fit into the changing environment right now. One thing I want to highlight here, we working on one of the protocol, which is a Quick. Quick become RFC 9000 this year. Then followed by another important protocol, which is HTTP 9114, finally become RFC right now. So you can see 7 years ago, we started deploy Quick, then followed by the industry, Apple, Facebook, Meta, and all other, it's actually changing the whole internet because of previously people use TCP to transport all those the different application. But if you upgrade, if you migrate to Quick, then those kind of a TCP already changing for the Quick protocol. So how quick should support IPv6? So is there any problem with the protocol quick to support IPv6? There's a lot of migration. You not only to changing the layers 3, you actually need to consider the whole layer 7 up to this cloud RDMA. So if I do have a GPU pod, a lot of GPU server, I want to do the quick calculation. Previously, between the GPU node and the storage could be IPv4. Now I need to change to IPv6. Then previously, between the storage and the GPU pod is kind of just a pure Ethernet. But right now we are actually getting rid of the Ethernet in the GPU pod. We replace the Ethernet to the RoCE, RDMA over Ethernet. So then how RDMA over Ethernet changing on the IPv6 here? So you see a lot of architecture design changing, a lot of new protocol, new method introduced. They all need to support IPv6 here. So, so that's why it's still ongoing, try to optimize IPv4 to IPv6 transition here. So you can see from one data center, every server, every rack, everything will be IPv6 enabled. So start a few years back, all the Google new data center, we don't have any IPv4 address for our internal use anymore. The whole private IPv4 is already done, finished. So every new data center we provide, for example, right now in Mumbai, in India, we offer a new thousands of servers, thousands of racks of servers. It's pure IPv6. So from management to the server talking to in another server, which is a pure IPv6 already. So if you look at the Google network here, we are ready to help our customer to adopt IPv6 already. It means from an underlay and overlay, everything will be IPv6 available. So from east to west and north-south to the user traffic and between the server. So a lot of requests, for example, you post some video on YouTube, then there will be a lot of east-west traffic between the two data center cluster, copy each other and so on. So everything here is IPv6 enabled. We actually not only to use IPv6 to peering our customer. Right now, we can use IPv6 to peering with our customer already. So one of the key technical driven means you don't need NAT for IPv6, right? So from very beginning, the IETF and the whole industry try to get rid of the NAT. But if you look at the cloud, all the cloud provider host the virtual machine, the GKE, I mean the container networks use private IP address. So if you try to access the outside, then you need the NAT. The whole virtual private cloud, VPC, which is built on the foundation of NAT. But how do you build a new cloud without NAT 6.6? We may still need the NAT 6.4 for some IPv6, IPv4 on-prem to connect to the IPv6 host cloud here. But we are not willing to offer the services for the NAT translation between the V6 address to another V6 address, because that's a totally different design here. So if you look at the cloud networking, there's a lot of product related with IPv6 need to upgrade here. So first of all the CDN, all the content delivery networks. So previously it's IPv4, you need to upgrade to IPv6. Then most important part of the load balancer. So to handle the millions of user requests, you need a load balancer to support IPv6. Then cloud DNS and then cloud VPN, like IPsec access to the cloud, you need to upgrade to IPv6 as well. Then internally, there will be like a cloud armor for firewall. So inside the center, 2 virtual machine, everything will be encrypted. So in case of any other customer even share the same hardware disk, they will not able to access another customer's information. So everything inside is protected by our firewall, so-called native cloud armor here. You need to support IPv6 cloud interconnect. Then the anti-DDoS, a lot of other functions. So here I list pretty much if you try to pick a cloud provider, then those functions, you need to upgrade for your customer as well. So, but the whole cloud is actually based on the private IP address, right? So if you look at the customer, they still need very few public IP addresses, but the majority of the services, they still need the private IP addresses, which means we offer you the ULA, the unique local address. So we are kind of working with other cloud providers, try to cut the ULA address space into different cloud providers, then we can better planning, better aggregate, especially for multi-cloud. So a lot of customers will back up Google Cloud with another cloud provider. So in that case, the private IP address, they need to be like carefully selected and carefully to planning on this one as well. So majority of the virtual machine, majority of the container pod, they still need talking to each other, like a load balancer. They will back up each other. They will do the calculation internal inside one cloud. So still need the private only. That's good enough. But like less than 1% virtual machine, they may need public access to provide real-time communication and some services here. So that's why we designed the ULA. Then we also offer the GUA, Global Unicast Address. So the GUA address and the ULA address from Google here, which is the ULA start from FD20 here. Then the GUA here is actually the Google Global IP block starting from 2600 here. So the ULA address is carefully to design to allocate every region. We have like a lot of data center worldwide. Then we will create this ULA address for our customer here. So some other cloud provider also think about the IPv6. So they may still provide the IPv6 NAT function. So to translate one IPv6 address to another IPv6 address. But to us, we don't think that's a good idea here. So eventually we design with our customer, we design this multi-NIC card. So any virtual machine you need a public access, you give a public IP address, GUA address on those virtual machine. Then if this virtual machine need to talking to the private on-prem others, you can assign the ULA address here. So with this dual NIC card, then you can do the service chaining, you can do the policy-based routing, you can do a lot of design, but the public and the private address will be totally separated in 2 different VPC here. We starting from 2017, 2018. So Google already can support IPv6. You saw a lot of IPv6 user to access Google services like YouTube, search and Gmail. So we are actually changing the backend. So the backend part, it still take time for us to migrate from IPv4 to IPv6. But starting from 2017, we actually already can support IPv6 client, like a mobile phone, laptop supported on IPv6. Why? How can we do so? It's very easy. In 2017, we introduced one feature which can terminate the IPv6 session. on the load balancer. So from the client to the load balancer is a pure IPv6. Then backend, because of this cloud load balancer will redirect the traffic into multiple virtual machine, multiple containers here. Then this one, we actually can support by IPv4 backend here. So this year, we actually working with our customer to change all those backend from IPv4 to IPv6 here. So eventually, everything will be IPv6 enabled from client to the load balancer to the backend here. So we are also offer a lot of customer, your enterprise customer, telco cloud, edge computing. Will need to connect to a Google Cloud here. So, but how can we connect you together? We do have the Google Peering Fabric. If you read the white paper, there's an Aspirations for the Peering Fabric part. The IP address here, which is not assigned to the Peering Fabric. So the customer CPE router will be peering with a so-called cloud router inside Google. We don't use any physical router to learn the BGP, especially for the IPv6 part, IPv4, IPv6. We use a virtual router, a software-based router to connect with this one. Then we support all the major BGP peering function. But from a capacity point of view, we can handle like 100 gig, multiple 100 gig connect to Google Cloud already. So basically, we kind of disaggregate the peering router into 3 components here. There's the internet, like an interconnect gateway here, then with the peering fabric and with the cloud router. So sitting in different location or peering fabric here might be in POP, Colo, together with Equinix and the Global Switch and others as well. But if you look at the software BGP speaker, which is go back to Google Data Center here, then the interconnect like a Google Cloud Gateway as well. So basically, we can help you to connect your customer, connect your edge computing, connect your like telco cloud into Google Cloud with IPv6 already today. So the last topic, innovation on IPv6, which is container networks. So container networks previously all used the private IPv4 address, but we have a multiple very big customer. They running out of the 192, they running out of the 10 something. So all the private IPv4 address, because of the container networks will be destroyed very, very quickly. So there's a lot of private IPv4 addresses not enough. So we're changing to the IPv6. We will support this function this year as well. So basically, instead of assign any IPv4 address, we can assign this IPv6 address to support 15,000 of nodes in one cluster. So to support all those functions. So the whole IP address allocation for IPv4 container networks and IPv6 container networks totally different here. So the GK services range here and the pod range here, then they can be much better allocation for the IP address as well. So going forward, you can see, we see a lot of our customer deploy the the Kubernetes container networks use IPv6, then connect back to the Google Cloud, use another IPv6 address here. Just like if you look at all those from very beginning, the IPv6 driven by IoT, driven by 5G, driven by all those edge computing. So we not only offer the IPv6 inside the very large data center in Google for any major region, somehow we can support thousands of racks servers somehow. But to the end user nearby the factory, nearby the telcos here, we offer this edge computing solution as well. So for those edge computing solution, we run IPv6 as well. So today we offer all those so-called Google distributed edge with IPv6 capability already. So that's pretty much for today's session. I'm looking forward to talking to you on how you pick your cloud provider, then connect your cloud provider with IPv6, and how you design the cloud VPC with ULA, GUA address, and to do the interconnect, VPN, CDN, all those capability you need to start thinking about migrate from IPv4 to IPv6 now. So that's all for my session. Any questions? Thank you.
Anurag from Hurricane Electric. You said that VPCs must have private IPv6 address. Why so? If someone has some workload, say in Google Cloud, and wants to interact with some workload in some other cloud, say AWS, why should it not be with just public addresses?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So if you look at the IPv6, they have a 38 to power 10, a lot of IP address. You can use the public IP addresses everywhere for all the virtual machine, all those kind of your container networks. But there's still security issue here. If you use a public IP address in Google Cloud, in cloud, then everybody can scan you, everybody can access you. So majority of the services are like a short video. Mohela is the share chat in India. So a lot of Indian client, they can access only few public IP addresses. The majority of the services offered here, they still use private IP addresses. So all of our cloud customer, when they go to IPv6, they need a ULA address, unique local address. So I think more from those kind of firewall security reason here. Yeah, of course, I think, yeah, that's a really good question because you have enough IP addresses. You don't need to use a gateway or to control for the security reason.
So a setup with just public addresses communicating with a reasonably designed firewall is good enough.
Yes, definitely. But I think a lot of people, they are hesitate to use that architecture anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shaun Ma. If you have questions to him or the other speakers, please connect to them during the breaks. So next is Philippe with Global Routing Table Update. So welcome, Philippe.
All right. Oh, yeah. No. Okay. I was going to say, I was looking at the screen here thinking the screen's dead, but of course, this is a PDF I'm presenting from. So it's my duty as one of the PC chairs to get us back on schedule. So that's probably the end of my presentation. No, I'll skate through this very quickly. The first speaker in the session stole all my time, so I'll try and do this in about 5 minutes flat. The main thing I want to highlight is, how does this work? Where are the buttons? Right, the big button with the arrow on it. So I've been doing this for quite a while, since 1998, for those of you who don't know, and I wasn't really intending to submit it for this SANOG because we had so many other good presentations, but there was requests from the PC that we do it. What I want to try and do just today, I've got a lot of slides here. It's more for you to go and study later on rather than me to go through each one in great detail. I just want to pick out some of the key pieces of it. I had every intention of updating it this week during when we were doing the workshops, but it was a very, very busy 4 days with some fabulous workshops, as Rupesh said. So this is about 11 days old. So V4 table, no surprise, onwards, upwards, it always carries on doing that. We know that it's probably going to be a million prefixes, I would say, by end of next year. So start planning your fib sizes. Lots of other people have pointed this out. Ipv6 region, onwards, upwards as well. Just the V4 stats these are, by the way. I don't think there's much I want to point out here either. I should have brought my reading glasses because I'm struggling to read that. So the biggest contributor to the V4 routing system is this Mexican mobile operator, Uninet. It's one of the biggest mobile operator in Mexico. 8,500 prefixes to the global V4 table. One thing I work out in all of this, as I'll talk about later, is I do work out what the routing system could be like if everybody aggregated. As all the folks that came to the workshop last 4 days found out, if you could actually aggregate, you could pull it down to 592. So I guess the marketing department runs the internet rather than any network engineers, so that they're always number one. And then Guangdong Mobile, Uninet is Orange in Spain, another mobile operator. I really have no idea what these people are doing. Anyway, the whole list is there. You can go and study. I'm not going to highlight Amazon. V6, 147,000 prefixes in the V6 table. The V6 table is showing acceleration during the pandemic. All the lockdown seems to have encouraged more V6 prefixes in the global table. Not quite sure why that happened. I also pick out RPKI stats. Vivek's going to talk about RPKI this afternoon and what's happening in this region, but I pick out the rows, 600 invalid rows in the global V6 table. It's kind of a bit strange. In other words, those are prefixes with incorrect either origin AS or subnet sizes or whatever. Longest AS path in V6, 38. That's very long. Average AS path length in the global internet should be about 5. So that 38 is mysterious. Biggest V6 operator. Woohoo, we're back to Mexico. There must be something about Mexico about being number 1 globally. And there must be something about China being number 2 globally. And Amazon is number 3. Keep the good work. I mean, bad work up Amazon. Not quite sure what you have to do to announce so many prefixes to the world. And so on, we go through the list. So all the light blue ones are an Ipv6 service region. So Ipv6 service region really, really likes announcing lots of V6 prefixes. If you look at them, rampant deaggregation. As I said in the workshop last 4 days, you carry on like this, you will not be able to buy a router to carry all this stuff. Everybody in the Asia Pacific region needs to do way better at announcing the V6 prefixes. Because if the whole world did this, you wouldn't be able to buy a router today with a fib that could carry it or the RAM that would be able to store it all. Anyway, there's the list. What else? Non-routable ASNs, private AS, documentation AS. Some people like creating AS sets with a lot of private ASs in it. I suggest you go and read BGP 101. Come to some of the many BGP workshops. Please don't do this. It's not routable on the internet. AS set is deprecated about 11 years ago, but still people using it. I have no idea why. This is the BGP AS set, not the one in the Internet Routing Registry. But V4, far too many to list. I just picked out some of them for amusement. V6, this is all of them, which I picked out for amusement. I mean, for something that's deprecated so long ago, I don't know why they're even appearing here. But anyway, there we go. What else? Unassigned resources. Don't know why. There's unassigned stuff. These are all the unassigned AS numbers. There's no record in any of the 5 registries for any of these. Why are operators today still routing these? Do you just accept any old rubbish? Please come to some of the routing security workshops. This is pretty serious stuff. This just should be appearing. The red ones are private AS numbers. The unregistered origin AS is far too many to mention. What happened there? No idea. Things should be quicker. And just again, some examples of these unassigned addresses in V4 and more and more and more. The V4 prefix growth, /24s onwards, upwards and upwards. And as many others have said, looking at this, the V4 table is going to end up all /24 soon. For V6, the big growth we're seeing is /48s, as many have said, and I've said for years, the /48 in V6, /24 in V4. Homework for you, how many /48s are in the entire 2000/3 address space? Back to my comments about no routers exist, carry that. You need to learn how to do BGP, folks. Global routing table, onwards, upwards, but it's a linear growth now, thank goodness. V6, bad news, not linear growth. This is exponential. We did the exponential in the late 90s for IPv4. I thought we would have learned. We have not learned. We just want to make things bad all over again. And we are doing it very well. V4 AS growth has tailed off. I think that might be something to do with the pandemic. V6 AS growth, hard to see because it's a shorter time period, but that's fairly linear, onwards and upwards with a few odd jumps. Aggregation in V4, it's bad. V4 prefix sizes tailing off. The black one is /22s tailing off. I guess the run out of V4 address space is helping because there's only 24s that are growing in V4. V6, yeah, 48s, as you see, the red lines onwards and upwards. The blue one is interesting. I've covered that in one of the online SANOGs recently. That was China getting 4,096, sorry, China Research Network getting 4,096 ASs and /32s. They suddenly appeared in May 2021. V4 address space announced that jump was the US DoD suddenly announcing lots of /8s. So they're all there now. AS announcements V4, yeah, we'll skip through that. The V6, skip through this. People love doing prepends, especially 200 or so. I'm not kind of sure what traffic engineering that does, but obviously these people seem to think it's doing something. Maybe they need to go to some basic BGP courses. The aggregation in V4, I've covered it before, I've whined about it before. Nothing really to talk about. It's just looking bad. Time for people to go to BGP courses. So aggregation savings in this part of the world. So this is Equinix service region. I picked them out. China Mobile could do some homework. Announcing, what's it, 8,993 nets. They could save 8,944. So they could bring it down to 50. But they don't want to do that because they want to appear on the top of the list. TPG, same thing. Do some basic BGP 101, TPG. This is pretty bad. Looks off, really. CERNet, VTEL, and so on through the list. I've not worked this out for V6 yet. That's next on my list. But V4 is pretty bad. India. So the top 10 in, bad deaggregators in India. There you are. Bharti is number 1. Tata number 2. BSNL number 3. Time to brush off your BGP textbooks, folks, because you cannot do this in V6. You will not be in business. In Pakistan, well, Pakistan Telecom, Cybernet, Connect, Nayatel, you're on the list there. More excitement. Bangladesh, Amber IT, F Telecommunication, BRAC, Link3. There's all the deaggregation you could be doing. In Sri Lanka Telecom, Dialog, Lankacom. That's more exciting. Nepal, WorldLink could be doing a lot better. Nepal Telecom could be doing much better, as could Subithu, MOS, and so on we go. There's massive deaggregation. Have a look at your traffic engineering. You cannot claim that this is traffic engineering. You don't have 100 different connections to the internet to do this. So homework, folks. At least some of the operators here came to the BGP workshop the last few days, so maybe we will see improvements. Afghanistan, well, what to say there? Maldives, same story. Massive deaggregation. Bhutan, well, the RNE network in Bhutan is a bit badly deaggregated, which is kind of really embarrassing, but work needs to be done there. And then Tashisal is next on the list, whereas the rest are probably doing pretty good jobs compared with what's actually. So that's the whole of South Asia. I think I've got everybody. So that's the deaggregation in V4. The reason I'm making a point about it is you need to do the same thing in V6, proper deaggregation, otherwise forget about routing anymore. V for observations, onwards, upwards, nothing new there. V6, be afraid. I am. I am very afraid because folks are treating V6 like V4. Global routing will not scale if you carry on behaving like this. Simple. That's all I have.
Anurag Bhatia, Hurricane Electric. One quick question. You had Amazon in first few slides. Did you check if those IP addresses actually belong to Amazon? They might be because they allow you this bring your own address space, and hence they technically might not be able to aggregate them.
Yep, I agree. But it's a global problem. And we've got to think about bring your own address space. Might be a great service, but the global operators have to carry all this stuff.
Yeah, so they might be just getting those 48s out from their enterprise users,
Yep.
just announcing those.
Yep, no, that's quite right, Anna, right? Yep. But you know, if everybody did this, where would we be? And that's the question. I'm saying it as a question. How do we solve this? There must be something that can be done. Anyway, Endeavour, we should probably have lunch. Anyway, thank you all. Got some of your time back.
Thank you, Philip, for the interesting update and the naming and saming of bad and ugly guys. So we'll be back by 2:30 for the second technical session. So thank you for joining. So I think the dinner is ready. Sorry, lunch. We are not yet ready for dinner. The lunch is ready. So please be back by before 2:30. Thank you.